Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of December 18th. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Happy holidays. Did you see the snow out there? How did you not see the snow out there? It's kind of crazy as we were driving here this evening. We're going to start off this meeting with, we have a lot of opportunities to do this. We have some really good news here this evening, and I'm going to refer over to the administrator so he can share some of that.
Yes, I'm pleased to have Chief Lynch inform the council of some very good news.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. And perhaps I could give way to introducing the team of officers who are responsible for obtaining the accreditation shingle here back in Rhode Island. As you know, last month I reported that we received accreditation through CLEAR, a national certification, and we're here to report tonight that we have successfully met all the tenets of the program in order to be accredited here in Rhode Island. So if I could introduce the team, it was led by Captain Brian Burke, who stands to the back of the room. To his left is Detective John Nappy. To his left is Sergeant Ricardo Morato. And this gentleman, to me, is Officer Brandon Coria. You might have recognized him this Saturday. He played Santa at our toy drive, so I want to thank Brandon for that.
Chief, don't say that too loud anymore, okay? So,
and Miss Christine Crocker, who is here from RIPAC, who would like to address the council and present the town with our plaque.
Good evening.
I'll bring you in.
Oh, where to get? Oh.
Nope. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. It's definitely an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight. And of the numerous awards I've given out to agencies this year, not to make light of that, this is the award that is going to make my year that I'm the happiest to present. In less than 8 months, this agency was able to attain CLEAR accreditation and now RIPAC accreditation. Excellent. And that's really no easy task. Trust me, I was an accreditation manager. But the Bristol Police Department, under the leadership of 3 different chiefs, put a team together of experienced accreditation managers and assessor. And Brandon probably learned this job the fastest of any accreditation manager. Your head probably was spinning a little bit, but now you're a pro. And Captain Burke was the muscle behind it to make sure they got what they needed. Accreditation is not a destination, it's a journey. It requires commitment and dedication. It's a continual daily process to help your agency be prepared to face whatever challenges may come. And today, law enforcement has numerous challenges, and they change daily. And we have to keep up on our policies, providing those tools for our personnel to make good, sound decisions. This is a well-respected police department throughout the state. Sergeant Morato, John Nappy, who are old-timers at doing accreditation, have been very helpful to other agencies seeking accreditation. And now that Brandon's joined the club, we'll be sending you out to help other agencies. So you should be very proud of this police department. They are a professional group, and the men and women of this department deserve that recognition. It's important to them that they're adhering to industry-recognized best practices. So, Chief, if you want to come up so I can present you with your award. And if the team wants to come and stand behind us. Rhode Island Police Accreditation Commission, be it hereby known that the Bristol Police Department has voluntarily complied with the required standards as set forth by the Commission and is hereby awarded this certificate of accreditation, effective this 18th day of December 2019, and hereby shall be recognized as an accredited agency for a term of 3 years. Chief, congratulations. Just so you know, 3 years comes pretty fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.
Mr. President, if I could just take one more second of your time. Today I had the esteemed honor of meeting Colonel Rusty Serper, a native Bristolian. I went by his home today, and he is the first chief to bring accreditation to the town of Bristol. It was an honor to meet the former chief and to meet him. And on behalf of the Bristol Police Department and the town of Bristol, we wish him all of the best during this holiday season.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we're all very, very proud to know that we're in good hands with such a great police department. So excellent job.
Thank you.
Outstanding. So we were going to recognize the Mount Hope High School girls tennis team. We're going to do that at our next meeting. They were Division II champions, and it's worth saying it twice. So they'll be here hopefully at our next meeting if they're available, so we can recognize them. So,
Excellent.
Mr. Clerk.
The first item on this evening's agenda, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the consent agenda. I will bring the council's attention to a letter that's in your place regarding consent agenda item EE1.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second, and may I pull AA11?
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda and pull AA11. Mm-hmm. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next item is submission of minutes of previous meetings, items A1 and A2.
Motion to approve previous minutes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is an advertised public hearing. This considers the petition of Tom Bergenholtz on behalf of Gladding Shops at 205 and 211 Thames Street. Request a council consideration for a license to maintain town property. You have recommendation provided by the Director of Community Development.
So as the clerk pointed out, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Welcome. I'd be scared if you didn't speak in favor, sir.
It would be pretty bad if I didn't speak in favor, right? That wouldn't be very nice of me. So I'm Tom Bergenholtz, 366 Hope Street. So basically, as you know, we've been rehabbing and redoing the two buildings, 205 and 211 down at Thames Street. I am happy to report that that long project is now completed, and thank you for all your help and all your guidance and going for all your help in the past, okay? And so what we'd like to do, what we're proposing is, I think you guys all have a map in front of you.
We do.
If you looked at 211 Thames Street on the right-hand side, there's an ADA compliant brick walkway that we put in because our main entrance to 211 Thames Street. It's 205. You have it wrong. I know. I always get these numbers wrong. Okay. 211 should be 205. 205 should be 211 in your map, all right?
So let's just take just a sec. Could you just share with everyone which buildings those are, just so everybody's clear?
Sure. 205 is the restaurant. If you're looking at Thames Street, it's the building right to the right of the fire station. 211 is the residence. It's the yellow building to the right of 205.
Thank you.
Yep.
I should always describe it that way. Okay, so if you look at the map, then we built an ADA compliant walkway to the just to the left of 205 Thames because that is where the main entrance is to the restaurant. We could not put the main entrance in off of Thames Street due to some circumstances that are way beyond my control, but as well as there was a view problem in the back we didn't want to have the storage facility facing the ocean. We wanted to have the view facing the ocean. So the storage facility for the restaurant actually went into the front of 205 Thames Street. That's where the artwork is in the window. So that's why it's covering what's in there. So we put the main entrance on the side. We went ADA compliant on that, as I said. We extended the brick all the way back. So now what we're proposing is we would like to exchange, just a very simple exchange, I hope, is to exchange that line that runs from Thames all the way back to where your map is there. I think you see something that says existing and proposed lot line changes. We would exchange that property, which we now have, for the property that runs from the south of 205 Thames Street, which is on the west side now of both buildings. That's our proposal, is to exchange that property for the property on the left or the south side of 205 Thames. And we would maintain that property, those bricks. I know the recent ice and snow. We're down there right away, shoveling that off, putting ice on it so nobody trips, so there's no hazard. I've also agreed to maintain, which I have to, it's my obligation as an owner of this place, to make sure that the deck is cleared off, the stairs are cleared off leading down from the deck, so that in case of an emergency in the restaurant, there's two egresses. There's the egress on the, there's actually three. There's the egress on the main entrance. There would be the egress through the storage facility. But if you're upstairs in the restaurant, I wanted to have an egress off of the deck as well. So the stairs run down to the back onto the land that is currently on the back that the town owns.
Is there questions? Obviously, this is a public hearing, but if you need clarity on what was shared, feel free.
I just have a question. And Tom, first of all, the restaurant is beautiful.
Thank you.
Done a class act, beautiful job. It looks great down there.
Thank you.
My hat's off to you.
Thank you.
So basically, to a license to maintain, and what you're proposing would include that additional 4 feet off the deck, off 205.
Yeah. Yes, on the back. Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And 211 as well.
And 211.
Yes.
Okay.
There's no brick on 211, but yes, I would maintain that. I put sod there.
You put sod.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And I would leave the sod, and I would move. There's 3 trees that are there. I would move those back, as I've worked with some people in the town to move those back. But I cannot move those back now. I have to wait till the spring, only because if I move those trees, those bushes now, they're going to die. So I've agreed to move those back in the spring.
Agreed to move the bushes. Okay.
There's three evergreens there. You can probably see it on the map.
Is there any other questions? And obviously, we can come back if there's a question for clarity. We'll certainly call.
Sure.
So if I'm following things correctly, then we are going to follow the recommendations that Diane put forth. Am I correct?
So this is a public hearing at this point, so it's just at this point, this is a for and against in regards to what the request is. And I think I'm going to take a moment here and just give some clarity, because there was a lot said, and I think it was well said. 205, as was said, was the restaurant. What's being proposed is that behind the restaurant, so closest to the water, that the back of the restaurant has a patio, and there was patio bricks put there past what was leased to Mr. and Ms. Birkenholtz.
Correct.
And the request is to use that land and would be a license to maintain public property is what it's called. It's a fancy way of saying, yes, you can use it, if this council sees fit to do that. So what's being requested by the applicant to the town is, I'd like to use that extra 4 feet there. That is what's being proposed.
Right, and then in exchange for that, we're giving up they would have access, the public would have access on the bricks where the ADA compliant walkway is now. So that would become public access, because currently that's our part of that. So I would open that to the public.
So a clarity point on that one is that if you're looking at the fire department and the restaurant, that space between it, we'll call it a driveway, would then be accessible. to the public.
It's not
So-
the driveway, it's just the bricks.
Right. I don't know how better to discuss
Yeah.
that, but we talked about 4 feet is what's being proposed here, correct? So, okay. Anything else? Please.
Mr. Chair, I just had a question on regards to the license to maintain and insurance. Just had a question on that. Yep.
Yeah, anyone who is given the opportunity to maintain town property would have to have an insurance certificate,
Right. Good.
indemnifying the town.
Good.
I do want to also clarify, though, and I'm sure Diane will speak, but the issue of a swap pursuant to the lease is a little bit different than what you're talking about tonight, which is the license to maintain. We could go forward with a license to maintain if you so desire, with all of the conditions such as insurance certificate, et cetera. One of the conditions of that license could be to allow the public to have access on that 4-foot brick walkway that Mr. is explaining tonight. So,
Okay. Thank you. And we'll come back to that for clarity, so we're super clear there. Anything else?
Mr. Bergenholz, that walkway extends all the way back to the lease line, the other lease line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Was there anything else? So I'm going to ask for, is there anyone else here to speak in favor? So certainly you're...
Hi, Mary Ann Bergenholz, 366 Hope Street, Bristol.
Welcome.
Hi. Yes, when we first brought this up, we did want to just do a lease land swap of the side for the back. We realized that that's going to be a very attractive area down the side anyway, that the public will just naturally want to go there because the driveway beside is going to be grass, and it won't be that easy for people to walk on as the paved way. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So, for myself, I'm always extremely hesitant to give up in any way public land because this is public land. What's being proposed here, I believe, is not unreasonable. I believe that how it is being proposed, why it is being proposed, and the access back to the land behind the restaurant is not unreasonable. As the solicitor pointed out, a license to maintain public or town property is an appropriate way to handle this. It's not redoing the lease. It gives the applicant the access that they're asking for. It gives the public access to the back. And the reason why I'm very hesitant on that is we have pending litigation for land that belongs to the town. It has nothing to do with this, but other land that belongs to the town that we fight very hard to get back. Those granite markers around town that allows you and everybody else to go to the water is such a rarity out there. So that's why I'm very hesitant on that. But again, I believe that this request is reasonable. So what do my colleagues think?
I was wondering if we could just clarify, because I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing about the license to maintain, and I'm hearing about the swap. Diane's is not the license to maintain, right? Is that you moved away from that, or you're suggesting something different?
I think there is another option that might be easier, and it was discussed a bit. The license to maintain the area where the pavers extended back beyond the current lease line, just behind the restaurant. I think that tonight was advertised as a license to maintain. When we met out in the field, we talked about a license to maintain. That's how I thought it was going. Then it became a proposal to swap the lease area, which is one way to do it, but I think it may be preferable, hearing some of the concerns, to just do the license to maintain the patio behind the restaurant with some of the conditions that you brought up tonight, rather than get into a lease swap.
So, Mike, to that end, walk us through that.
Right, so what you could do is you could grant the request for them to use that patio area that extends beyond the lease line pursuant to a license to maintain. You can condition that upon several things. I know the manager wants to be sure that there's a 10-foot opening through that area so that lawnmowers and other equipment can get back and forth to maintain the town land.
You said manager. Did you mean the administrator? I just want to make sure that... Okay,
You're
all right.
totally
Okay.
correct. I
Okay.
meant the administrator. I don't know if that was a demotion or whatever. No harm meant. The administrator. Additionally, another condition would, of course, be an insurance certificate indemnifying the town. Another condition would be making that walkway that is presently restricted to the leaseholder and their clients open to the public. So you could authorize a license to maintain with those conditions.
Is there anything else that we're missing? Before you do, Mike, is there anything that we were missing that we spoke about?
I think moving the bushes was also something that was
the bushes,
volunteered.
which they're going to be moved in the spring, though, so they don't die.
Mr. Administrator?
The point of the license to maintain are the 4 feet behind the restaurant. The reason why we prefer the license to maintain, it's a 65-year lease, and we hope that the restaurant stays there for 65-plus years and it's successful. Our concern is looking out into the future. If the use changes in that area and there's a fence put around, we want, as the town has an interest in when the lot lines were delineated, we made sure there was 10 feet back there for egress. We do have access back there by State Street Dock, but we can't see what the potential would be in the future. So we felt as if the license to maintain, it can always be adjusted in the future if need be. Our concern, as far as the boardwalk, we would like an easement over the boardwalk or the paved lot on the south side of the restaurant in writing. And again, things are great, excellent. The relationship is great with the tenants and the business, but we can't predict the future. So if there was ever a gate put at the entrance, the public would not be welcome to go through this. What we're looking for is to grant a license to maintain 4 feet in the rear of 205 westbound, 4 feet west, and a easement on the south side of the property.
Please.
So it's a little confusing now because I know it got confusing when we tried to do all this stuff, but the last time we had a meeting we really proposed something as an exchange, exchanging that lot on the south side for the lot, the piece on the west side. So I have no issues taking care of the south side brick. However, I'm reluctant to accept where I think this is going. So the other solution I have would be I can just remove the 4 feet of brick in the back and keep everything else the way it is. So I'm not trying to play hardball. We thought an exchange would be the most simple thing here to do, to exchange this land here on our side, opening it to the public, having access to the boardwalk. We've also talked about, in the future, doing something at my expense and my cost to connect the boardwalk to this pedestrian right-of-way. But that's not going to happen if I have to take away the 4 feet of brick. And Steve, I measured today that you don't have 10 feet there to what somebody mentioned 10 feet. There's not 10 feet there for you to do that. You only have about 8 feet 3 inches. I understand what you're trying to do, but I just want to go on record that there's not 10 feet available there.
Did you include the boardwalk that was added?
I went to the boardwalk. No, I went to the wall, the seawall.
It's to the seaward side of it.
So the seaward side of the wall. So it may be 10 feet. But you can't go.
It was surveyed. It was surveyed.
Because there's a post in the middle of the seawall.
The leasee has 25 feet west of the rear foundation of the original 205 Gladding house.
Correct.
They built on town open space. That's the issue here. You built on a public right-of-way, and you said it was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
We're looking to work with you to grant you a 4-foot, which is not an easy thing to do. This is public land by the water.
I understand.
So
that's why we're off.
Our recommendation was made, Mr. Chairman. It was to grant our recommendation is to grant a 4-foot license to maintain and ask for an easement on the south side of the building in return.
I guess where I'm having challenges, I hear non-distinct differences. I don't see what's being proposed here is a large words, same thing as you saying. Lease swap and license to maintain is all the same. At the end of the day, well, it is not the same thing. What the salient points are the same. Gives you the use that you're looking for. It gives the use to the public that was proposed, which is between the fire station and the restaurant, right?
That's correct.
And I don't hear anything else as a negative here. So a lease swap would obviously require a renegotiation, changing the lease, if you will. This is a cleaner way of doing it. It's as long term. It doesn't sound like it has a negative end. It sounds like you achieve what you want. But I don't see where the negative is.
Yeah, I think it might just be in the terminology, the license to maintain. So when you want to use town land and make improvements and plant things and so forth, that is called a license to maintain. So it would allow you to keep the pavers that go beyond.
Diane, could you speak into the mic a little bit more? Yeah, it's okay.
It would allow you to keep the pavers that extended beyond the 4 feet, so you get that in addition to the land that you currently lease. So I know it's not, a swap for a swap, but I think it's almost a distinction.
At the end of the day, it's yes.
I think the difference might be, and I mean, I support, the end result. Let's put it that way. However we get to that point, I think they've done a great job, and I think having that. Accessibility to the boardwalk on that side, I think that's all good. I think perhaps it's when in the description that either, the administrator just made down the road, we don't know what's down the road. So if the land were to be somehow transferred or, the project. But I think the thing is that if there was another leasee come into the picture, anybody can always come back for another license to maintain. Do you know what I mean? So even if it just stays with that project, I think that would, or I don't know, there's no limit on the number of years, right? It's just that you want to have access in case we want to get it back. Is that what it is? That's right. If something were to happen. I mean,
that's a good point. This is not a renewal in 10 years. This is not a
I don't think it's a big difference either. I think it would serve the same purposes. I understand, both sides of where you're coming at from this. And I do think we'd want to keep those pavers there because I think the plan, if you're able to get, wheelchairs or handicap access back to the waterfront, I think that's a really good plan. And I think you guys have done an awesome job in what you've done there. It's really a beautiful building and the property's beautiful. And it's very high quality work. So like I said, I support the end result, and I am open to either way of how this would be resolved. But I was a little taken aback when you said that you weren't sure where this is. You didn't like where this might be going, and I wasn't sure what you really meant by that, Tom, because I think this would be the license maintain is the way this would mostly get done. I know the swap would be easier because you'd be able to say this is what we're leasing. I understand where you're coming from that, but I mean. I think you end up with the same result. I don't think the town's going to go after that property that any of us can predict, at least in the next number of years that any of us may be around, you know.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make it clear, when we negotiated the lot lines, we had full intention of keeping 10 feet, so that, again, if we needed egress to Thames Street from our public property, we would have it. This changes that if there is a swap. I don't think we could get a vehicle around with, 6 feet. So I think it's very important that we do at least a license to maintain, to keep our options open for the future in the event that a fence is put around the property, which is something that we probably couldn't stop. Okay. So it keeps our options open for the property in the rear in the event of an emergency or whatever we might decide to do there, if anything at all. But again, and I need to be clear that the property was surveyed. The structures were built on town property, which is public open space by the waterfront with water view. So I prefer that we stick with the original agreement that we sat and discussed many times, and we stick to the original plan. And our recommendation is to a license to maintain for the 4 feet.
Did you want to add anything, Mike?
Everything that's been said is correct legally. The only way a license to maintain could be jeopardized is if a condition weren't met. For instance, if all of a sudden the access were cut off, then obviously the other end of the bargain wasn't being met. But
okay. But besides that, okay.
Could I just ask the question about, okay, if we don't do the swap, what is the town going to do for handicapped access to the boardwalk?
Well, you're getting in like a de facto, might be the wrong word, swap, because you're getting the land to use as yours under the license to maintain.
I don't think it's as clean to do it as a license to maintain, the insurance and all this other stuff. I think the clear land swap is, we thought this would be, yes, we made a mistake. Absolutely, we made a mistake. We can take those bricks out. That's not a problem to us to take those bricks out. Where those bricks were supposed to go, and we explained this to Diane, was there was an additional 4-foot space to the right of the stairs that come down from upstairs. I did all the site prep work with the landscaping team, and then I fell ill for several weeks. And they were down there, they had the extra brick, and they said, oh, it must go out here, and they just did it on their own. I'm sorry that it happened, but once it was in, we thought, with the labor and everything else that was going on, and also realizing that people are coming through those properties like they are town-owned, that what is the town going to do for a handicapped access that's pleasant and easy to the boardwalk? So therefore, we came up with the idea of doing the land swap. I think even though the town administrator wants to keep that 10 feet, he can keep that 10 feet and we can take those bricks out. But what are you going to do? You're going to go to more expense. After we take those bricks out, you're going to go to an additional town expense that's going to be much more costly for you to do to extend that to the boardwalk. This is why we were saying it's to the town's benefit to actually have a private entity do the work that they'd like there to connect that all the way, because we can do it for a lot less money than the town can. The town's going to be spending $50,000 at least to get that done. So we thought it was going to be simple, and we're absolutely we will absolutely pull those back if that's what you want to do. It's not.
So actually, that's not what's being proposed.
What is the objection?
If I may, yeah, I was just thank you for saying that, because I was just going to ask the same thing.
We're not hearing it right.
What is it sounds like there's a disconnect. It sounds like you're getting everything that you were looking for, and the end result is the same. The insurance coverage, Mike, stop me anywhere you disagree. The insurance coverage would be the same. Your liabilities would be the same. The access would be the same. It's just instead of being part of the lease, it's a different way to get to the conclusion that you requested. So I don't see the negative here.
There's one negative there, is that we have the public using an area that we're the ones who have to insure. Anyone in the public, including people who are handicapped. and
How
have
would the-
more problems
so
walking.
thank you for saying that. Mike, is there any distinction? Is that a true distinction if it was leased versus in what's being proposed here?
Well, if it were leased and the land swap took place the way that they're now asking for it, it would be town land, and so therefore they would not be insuring it. Right? It would be
What part of it? Is there a specific part that we speak of here that would not?
the
The whole
piece
walkway.
the piece to the west that the brick extends onto. If there were a land swap, they would no longer. I mean, they would. Oh no, they would own it. I'm sorry. Yes, they would own it. You would
Just
still.
the walkway.
No, we would own it to the west.
Wait, wait, wait.
We wouldn't own it to the
Please,
east.
everyone, one at a time.
You would
Thank you.
still have to.
South.
You would still have to insure that.
Yeah, so I don't see any differences. So
I think,
No.
Mike, I think that the area to the south is what we're questioning on the insurance.
The walkway.
The
Mike,
walk-
if they grant an easement
but
to the town,
But if it's going to be open to the public,
Uh-huh.
the insurance we're talking about would be on the west side. Your
Oh, that's no
concern.
problem.
Oh,
your-
then there's we're
Yeah,
talking about
there's a
the, okay.
confusion there.
Your
Okay.
concern
That's what our
is
concern
the
is.
south pathway.
Yes.
Open to the public. We'll just add that to the town's insurance
right,
policy.
if
We're only
that,
concerned about the area on the west side.
I think that clears
so
it.
we have an umbrella because if it's public, then it's part of the town's public insurance.
So if it's public access
They
across leased
misunderstand it.
land, it's public access across leased land
Yeah.
is going to be town.
Mike, you heard that?
But I think it would be an easement to the town.
Right. There would
So
be a
that's
right
the
to
town.
pass and repass by the lease. In other words, the lease terms would be modified to provide for a right of the public to pass and repass on that south side walkway. But the town would insure that. We're looking for insurance on the west side,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
where you've put the
Fine.
pavers.
You're clarified.
So what I would like, Mike, if you would, is that, and I'm sorry, Council, is there any other questions or
Sorry.
some
I'm
clarity that needed?
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I was just going to...
I don't want to make a motion yet because I'd like Mike to do it for
Sure.
us, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Mike?
No other questions? Okay, so the motion would be to approve a license to maintain to the Bergenholzes pursuant to the map, which is in your packets in front of you, and the conditions would be as follows. Number one, with regard to the west side of the property where the license to maintain would be located, there would be an insurance policy provided, a rider to your insurance policy would be provided to the town. Number two, there would be a 10-foot opening, I guess, seaward to the, is there a ramp there or a dock?
To the water side.
To the water side would remain open so that town equipment could go back and forth. In addition, the lease would be modified to provide for a right-of-way for the public in the south
Yep.
pathway that's described in the map,
Right.
which area would be insured by the town of Bristol. And
Did we skip anything?
did we miss anything?
And,
There's some bushes moved.
Oh, so we should specify the area that the license maintains going to exist on. It shows on the map as 4 feet wide. And Diane, I'm not sure how many feet long it is.
Are we talking,
It's-
where, are we talking
To
right?
the west?
Are we talking where the deck is, where the current brick is, Mike? Is
The
that what-
current
Yeah,
brick and-
it's, that is where that brick is now is 4
4
feet
feet west.
by 20 feet.
No, no, no.
No.
All the way across the back.
That's longer.
No, but he's talking about the brick.
But where,
To maintain would only be the brick behind.
Right,
no, they were kidding me.
because that's the only thing that's necessary.
It's only the brick behind 205, right?
Grass, aren't they?
Yeah, I know you petitioned to get more along the back, but I think the
We-
council's only going to do the area that you.
Well, we're losing then. We're losing square
I thought it was
footage
the
out of
whole
the
area.
property.
No, you're gaining. You're gaining 4 by 20. You're gaining 80 square feet because you're still going to maintain the existing leased area that we currently lease. Then you'll get the license to continue to use the 4 feet by 20 feet.
Getting everything.
over
Well,
the lease.
Okay, but the reason why I say we're giving it up is because as it is now, since it's part of the lease, we could block it off, and the public would not need to be able to use it.
But isn't that the consideration for being able to use the public land and the license to maintain? That's the swap.
I thought it was more fair to just have an even swap because the length of this brickway on the side, on the south, is exactly the same length, a little bit more than across the back.
The whole
back is a little bit less.
205 and 211.
So just to make it completely clean, that's why I just wanted to get a lease swap.
In the meantime, I'm just curious, like, how many times were there discussions about all of this with you, Diane, the Bergenholzes?
I've had maybe 2 or 3 discussions with the Bergenholzes, and we kind of laid out the options, and I've informed them that, there are multiple options to get to the place where we are tonight in terms of the legalizing what's there if the council decides to even grant it. So it was really, there were, as you said, there were 2 ways to do it, or maybe one better way. But, yeah, so.
I mean, I'm just wondering if this is, if this is something that, that it should be put off to the next meeting and have this, clarified. Like, have you sat down with Mike, when he's here in office hours and talked to him about, what that, what the actual license to maintain looks like and what these things would be, jotted down and think about it? I mean, it seems to it's a real big disconnect between what has had different meetings and different outcomes. I mean, it just seems like I don't know if we should, do you want to go back and think about what this option is, if you hear this is what the council is interested in? Or?
If I may, you're asking a very good question, because we asked for just straight land swap on the lease.
Right.
And then it became all this license to maintain and all this other stuff, and a public hearing and everything else. We then were invited to meet with Diane this past week. At that meeting, Diane said to us, yes, the lease, simple swap of land on the lease is the right way to go. And now, I'm sorry, but I feel blindsided coming into the meeting here when she did not have agreement with the town administrator.
Well, I think that perhaps maybe, I don't know that much is going to take place between now and the January 8th meeting, that maybe we should put this off until the next meeting and have you all sit down and maybe with Mike to explain it and come back with a final agreement.
It's a good idea.
It is even in what is here, the 2 options Diane presents to us, it does go back to that potential swap, So, when I know you've talked to a lot of different people about this, including us, but when I first heard about it was a swap. Then I know at the other night at your grand opening it was the license to maintain, and now it's potentially a swap. So I think you should. I think it's the same. I think it's the same result, different wording. I do, and I think that if that's where it would be, so that the public is protected, because anything we do sets precedents, then I think that that's okay. I think that that's the way to go. But I do think that, rather than having to have you on the spot trying to decide if this is good or not and in your interest or whatever, I think that you should just put it off. We should put it off and then sit down with Mike and Steve and Diane, but together, and go over what does a license to maintain mean? How do we use it? Because we have it in many, many situations. And then what those requirements, the conditions would be. Because I think you'll end up getting the same upshot. I know, because you want the back land across the back, right? In exchange for the public. So I think it gets you to the same thing.
Right.
And it gets us to where the handicap access and if there's an easement and, different words are used, like the right-of-way or easement, whatever word is like the more correct, I think all that gets worked out. But that's my suggestion. I don't know if that would be appropriate motion at this point to just put this off until...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think this is getting a lot more confusing than it needs to be. It's a very simple issue. We responded, Diane, myself, we met with Mr. Bergenholtz and the building official. We learned that the patio was built on public open space. We found that not only was the patio built on public open space, on the south side you also encroached on the west side, which is the shore side. It was also on the fire station side, which is the south side. Not much, but it was something we should have been made aware of. That is public open space. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Not only was the patio built, and they claim they had no idea, although they are the contractors, they had no idea it was on public space. The landing and the stairwell for the second floor of the business is also on public open space. So that's one mistake, okay. Two mistakes, if we didn't go down there with the tape measure to protect our open space, again, I think it would have happened. And down the road, as I said, it's a 65-year lease. We can't predict what's going to happen in the future. Things are great now there. The buildings came out beautiful, but we don't know what's going to happen with a fence, with a gate. We don't know. We're protecting the future. That's my job as a town administrator, is to protect our public property, our open space.
Well, that's all of our jobs. That's our job, too.
I think this was a solution, and it wasn't an easy thing to give away public open space for a private business, and that's essentially what this license to maintain is. It's a very tough decision for the town council to make, but it's very clear.
Honestly, I don't think it is. I don't think, and I'm happy to continue this. You mentioned it's not an even swap. That's okay, because you got the land in the back where it's more valuable than the side. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because it lets you do everything that you said you wanted to do. Yes, you don't. I am not okay with extending the 4 feet. It's the patio part that you're looking for. It's on town property. You're asking to use it. Okay. I mean, and you proposed a solution to do it. And the other part is that the section that you're swapping out, everybody gets to use, including you. So there's no negative for you on this. I wholeheartedly agree with the administrator, is that, and it's been said, but the town didn't do anything wrong. You use town land. We're trying to work with you to get to a better place, and you're asking for more, and that doesn't seem like that's the right thing to do. I'm absolutely, as you heard, I've been very challenged with, I don't want to give up town land at all, but I think you proposed a reasonable solution. I can get there myself. I think we should take the next step on this, but if my colleagues would prefer to continue this to the next meeting, it's absolutely fine with me. For myself, I would not vote for that land all the way down. I'm certainly happy to work with you, and at the end of the day, this is all lot lines and things like that are important, but in a functional end of things, it's not really going to affect you at all. You're going to be able to do everything that you wanted to do, and yet we are protecting the people of Bristol and making sure that it's there for them, too. You're included with that, because you are also the people of Bristol. So I think it's a good way to do it. I think it protects your interest, and it protects the town's interest. I think we should take the next step, honestly. But if my colleagues, or if you prefer that we continue to talk a little bit more, we can do that, too.
1 minute?
Well, no, actually, because we're in a public, we need to move forward on this, and if you'd rather, it's okay that we continue it, but we do need to take the next step.
Okay, so do you want to? So can we read it again, Mike?
Of course, yes, absolutely, for clarity.
Just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. So the license to maintain would apply to that 4-foot by 20-foot area. We'll define in the actual license the exact square footage, but I think we can all agree it's the area where the paving extends onto public property and where the landing is that the administrator mentioned.
Right.
Approximately 4 by 20.
Right.
You would receive a license to maintain on that area. The conditions would be that you would provide a rider to your insurance policy to the town for that area.
Yes.
That there would be an opening maintained of 10 feet to the seaward side of the landing, whatever is there.
Can I just clarify that?
Yeah.
I don't think there'll ever be an opening because there's only 6 feet now because they've encroached 10 feet. But I think the ability for the town to access there over the pavers, over the patio, and that there be no obstruction. Thank you.
We'll make sure that there's no obstruction. The license to maintain will be that opening cannot be obstructed.
Fine.
Okay? That the walkway that you develop on the south side would be available to the public with the town's insurance in place. And finally, there are either 3 trees or bushes that need to be moved.
Right.
Which you said you would do in the spring.
Correct.
When they would stay alive.
You have my word.
So, was there anything else? Okay.
I'm good.
Did we miss anything? Okay.
Yeah, good.
Can I hear a motion to that effect?
Motion to approve the license to maintain the property as advertised and as the solicitor stated.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Sorry.
No?
No, it's okay.
I think we're at a good place. So.
Okay, thanks, guys.
I'll be drafting it and sharing it with you so that we're all sure that it says exactly what we voted on this evening.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item C1. This is the second reading for adoption of Ordinance 2019-18. This concerns the so-called mobile food establishments, a.k.a. food trucks.
And I would ask the council to continue that till January 8th. We've been getting lots of input, even today from Aaron, on suggestions. So if we could continue that public hearing to January 8th, we should be ready then.
Motion to continue to motion to continue to January 8th meeting.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the first reading of Ordinance 2019-20, and this is to create a no parking space on Milford Street.
Motion to approve the first reading for adoption.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next item is item D1, and this is the petition of Leonard Jones, doing business as Wicked Local Nutrition, 705 Metacom Avenue. Request council consideration for a vittling license. This is a new owner for existing establishment. You have recommendations provided by the Town Administrator, Department of Water Pollution Control, Fire Chief, and Chief of Police.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve the vittling license.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Are you Leonard?
Yes, I am.
Oh, well, congratulations. You know what?
I didn't know what
It's after the fact, but you're going to get a 30-second commercial. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Hello, how are we doing? How's everybody doing?
Good.
All right. My name is Leonard Jones. I'm a retired Marine. I've been involved in fitness for 25 years. I'm a part of Herbalife Nutrition. We shoot shakes and teas. Give people a metabolism boost in the morning before they go to work. Give them a nutritious shake so they can have energy instead of stopping at your local, breakfast places.
Yes.
Basically, we have a shop in Westport where we probably have about 200 clients. Mostly we do fit tests. We do fitness challenges. We have fitness classes. We've had people lose 50 pounds, 70 pounds, 100 pounds. And we're just keep on going, trying to make Rhode Island and Massachusetts healthy. That's what I'm here for.
So I said your first name wrong. Leonard is
Leonard,
what you said.
yes.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item D2, and this is the petition of the East Bay Warriors Football and Spirit requesting a bingo license for January 25th, 2020.
Motion to approve the bingo license based on all the positive recommendations.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Did you want to share anything?
I would, yes. I actually have a question, too. So it is a fundraiser for football and spirits, cheerleading, and it's a bingo night. So it is at the Maritime Center down on Thames Street. We are hoping to be able to sell tickets that do include alcohol. How does that work with the Town Council?
So you will apply for that through the clerk's office, and he can walk you through all of that. One of the requirements that we've spoken about this particular event and any event there is that membership needs to be at least 50% Bristolian. That is a requirement for using the Maritime Center for events. And I understand...
So 50% of the people that go have to be from Bristol?
Of
the organization.
Of the organization. So, of the organization, not the attendance of the event to have liquor. And I understand that the administrator is working with the harbor master to confirm, and there didn't seem like there was any issue there. So.
Okay. If we choose not to serve alcohol, are we still required to have a police detail?
I actually, on that one, I would defer to our police chief, and we would need his recommendation. If it's appropriate, we would follow it, meaning if he had suggested that there should be a detail there, that would be a requirement. If he's saying that it does not, then it would not.
Okay.
Say it?
Without the alcohol, he doesn't.
So the chief just said that without the alcohol, he doesn't see the need for that. Bingo doesn't normally get crazy.
Right. We just want to make sure that we're following everything that we should. Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for us?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
So we had a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Do please come in if you do decide that you want the liquor. My deadline is actually Friday for that next meeting. So, okay. Thank you. Okay, the next item is item E1, and this is for junk and secondhand dealer licenses for 2020. You have recommendations provided by the town administrator and chief of police.
Based on all the recommendations, I move to approve it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next is the petition of Johnna, Tufts, 627 Wood Street, request council consideration for removal of an accessible parking space. This is the second reading. You have recommendations provided by the town administrator, director of public works, and chief of police.
Motion to approve the second reading for adoption, and thank you.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to remove or to approve the removal, and I will also say thank you. We are happy to approve these when appropriate, and we also appreciate when people bring it to our attention is no longer needed, so we can remove it. We have a lot of discussion about parking. Every spot counts. We believe these are very good and appropriate, but when not needed, we're happy to remove them. So we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item G1. This is your public service appointment section. The first is Conservation Commission. There are 3 terms that will expire in December of 2020. You have 3 persons currently serving, seeking reappointment: Craig Fisher, Lindsay Green, and Raymond Payson.
I move that we approve all 3 of them for reappointment.
Is that what I said?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is Juvenile Hearing Board with term to expire in December 2022. You have it's a single position. You have Oriane Lima currently serving, seeking reappointment.
I'll move that we reappoint Oriane Lima.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is for Personnel Board with term to expire in December of 2023. You have Russell O'Connell currently serving, seeking reappointment.
I make a motion we reappoint Russell.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And item G1D, this is the Bristol Housing Authority. There are 2 positions available. Both are unexpired terms, one to expire in January of 2021 and one in January of 2024. You have 4 applicants: Edward J. Correa, David Simos, Helen C. Tina Barboza, and Manuel E. DeRosa.
Mr. Chairman, I request that we table this to the next meeting.
Continue.
Or continue, I'm sorry.
Second.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second to continue. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, we have the Rogers Free Library Board of Trustees. You have a recommendation from the board regarding the appointment of Ruth Sudo.
Make a motion to appoint Ruth Sudo to the Rogers Free Board of Trustees, or appoint.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. Am I to understand there were 3 candidates for this, Ms. Brito? Okay. I see you there, so, okay. And they were interviewed on November the 4th?
Yes.
And this was your recommendation after those interviews? Okay. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to appoint Ruth Sudo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. This is the part of the meeting that we stop for a moment and say thank you. Thank you to the boards and commissions, and particularly, obviously, the members, people that take time out of their days to volunteer and give back to the community. There are 2 open seats that we continue to the next meeting from our Bristol Housing Authority. 2 fine gentlemen. There's a lot of fine men and women that serve, but these 2, particularly one had been there for quite a long time, Dominic Canna and Manuel Cotta, were 2 excellent board members and gave a lot back to the community. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize them and actually to thank their families. But to say thank you. It's not possible for us to do what we do without volunteerism. We just appointed and reappointed some wonderful people and added a new person with Ruth. You happen to be sitting out there. There's Ruth. So thank you. This town and this council appreciates what you do. Thank you.
Definitely. I have to concur with you, Mr. Chairman. Volunteerism is very strong in the community, and we certainly appreciate all the efforts made, not just by the individuals, but the time they take away from their families to serve the community as well.
Well said.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council, is item I-1, and this is the correspondence from Scott Marino, General Chairman of the Firemen's Memorial and Welfare Committee of the Bristol Volunteer Fire Department, requests council support for their 63rd annual fundraising book.
I verified with the clerk that last year we went all the way up to 5 trumpets, and I would assume we'd like to do the same.
Yeah, 5 trumpets.
5 trumpets,
Yeah.
which would be $100. So,
Make a motion to approve 5 trumpets.
Second.
there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Hold on, Mr.
I
Administrator.
was going to say, Councilman Sweeney played the French horn, so maybe
That's-
5 French horns.
And a pear,
Or maybe
and a
4
pear tree.
trumpets and a French horn. I feel a Christmas song coming on. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Next item is item I-2, and this is an executive session requested by the Director of Community Development, and I'm assuming the council would like to take that up
Yes,
at the
please.
conclusion of the public agenda.
Yes.
The next is item I-3, and this considers the correspondence from Stephen and Michaela Belasco requesting support of the Best Buddies chapter at Kickamuit Middle School and Mount Hope High School.
Councilman?
So I had a chance to call Mr. Belasco today. I gave him a call to investigate this donation a little bit, and I spoke to him, and I learned a little bit more about the Best Buddies program. What they're seeking is a $150 donation. That was the same amount that the Warren Town Council gave. They serve 105 kids. 70% of them are from Bristol. These are kids with special needs, sometimes autism, other developmental disabilities. He wanted to be here today to talk about this, but he had a macaroni supper. He's always busy with fundraisers and everything like that. But the event will be this Friday. There'll be a 6 p.m. buffet at the Warren Supper Club, and it's a $10 donation to get into there, and then kids are free. So there'll be a buffet there, and there'll be music with Joe Karen and Neil and Joe Scalaro and so on. And so he's asking for $150. So I'll make a motion to donate $150 to Best Buddies.
Out of contingency?
Out of contingency.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second, and I'll just add this, is that typically these are handled in our human services portion of the budget on a yearly basis. When we go through our budget, this would be an application, and I encourage the Velascos to reach out to our administrator's office. There's an application process, but certainly this is appropriate because this is the first time it's happening. But in the future, things like this definitely go through our human services. But again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this request. So there's a motion and a second for $150. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next is item I-4, and this was something that was discussed briefly at the previous meeting. Councilwoman Perella requests that the town solicitor would examine the state regulations concerning classification of dancing and entertainment licenses.
I also think that I mentioned that perhaps the council or our clerk on behalf of the council should draft a letter for us to our legislators to explain the situation, because we've talked about this, I've talked about this for a number of years. I think there have been opportunities to maybe work with other communities on this when they have issues regarding some of the late night entertainment. And so just for people that are not familiar, there's one dancing and entertainment license. And whether you want to have an acoustical guitarist or a harpist, or you want to have a rock band, it's the same license. And I am personally bothered by that because once you have that license, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And so I think it would be better if the state law were to be changed, that it would give you some levels or grades similar to the way we have liquor licenses. You've got like beer and wine. You've got, so maybe if it's an acoustical guitar, you don't need any kind of a license from us. Only certain other things. I think that this section of the law needs to be looked at the state level, and I'm not sure that our legislators are familiar with this issue. So in addition to the solicitor looking at it, I would request that our clerk draft a letter on our behalf explaining a little bit of explanation of the issue and asking them and making them aware of it and asking them to look into it also, because they have legal counsel there that can draft up and asking them to work on this issue on our behalf. So that is a big part of it, is that letter from us. So I guess with that, I would motion to move forward.
Councilwoman, I just had a quick question, only because some of the businesses that do entertaining, if we do go forward with this, are you saying that they would only have one genre of music? So it would just, if they pick rock or they picked acoustic, that they would be kind of pigeonholed into that one genre, or are you saying?
I don't have a definite, because I've not researched all of it myself. I think if somebody wants to have a brunch and they want to have an acoustical guitar or a harpist or something like that, I don't even think they need to come to the council.
Right.
Personally, I think that I just think that it's just too broad. So, however, the legislature. I would be interested in seeing bills, and I would be interested in seeing what other people have to say about this. I think it needs to be refined. Mm-hmm. And, that may be like, pick a name of whatever you want to call it. The blue license is this and that. And you can go for the whole thing.
I think you made a good parallel.
I would like to have a better idea.
I think the parallel with the liquor license was perfect, is that, for example, if you can serve any alcohol, right, with a BV license, right, it would include beer and wine, where a limited BV would only be beer and wine.
Right.
So I think you could get to a place where, if you had the highest license, if you will, would allow you to do everything. I don't even know what everything is, but...
Right. You may not want to do everything.
Bring a point that harpist can be crazy, along with bingo issues, so we should probably watch that a bit closer.
When you throw French horns in there, too.
Well, I think that there's an idea that when you come in now and a petitioner is in front of us saying,
it's a valid
all I really want to do is have little background music, and so we say fine, but now they can do anything, and it's not popular anymore. But I like to use the analogy, like you can. Okay, maybe to make money, you're going to have like a wet T-shirt contest, like back in the day, and you can do it because it's all allowed under the same license. So that's not really what they came in for, but that's what the upshot could be. And that's why I'm concerned that it's just so broad. And so, there may be no interest anywhere else in the state for this to be changed, but I think we should bring it up, and we've talked about it on and off for maybe a good 10 years. I don't know, 8 years, maybe something like that.
So we heard the motion. I agree completely. Is there a second? I'll make the second.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I don't normally. Tony, you make the second.
I'll go for the second.
All right. So we have a second. Is there discussion?
But to Councilman Perella's point, okay, you said maybe that's not an issue. It could be an issue throughout somewhere else in the state, except nobody else has stepped up and made the request.
Right. No, I'm hoping, I'm hoping that it is. I'm hoping that it is an issue because I really do think it's like overly broad, and I mean I think it contributes. Probably not to a lot of problems, as many problems as we have here. Something that I worry about, but I mean, it could possibly contribute to some of the issues that we read about in Providence and other places. That it starts out one way, but you pretty much got a license to do anything you want.
I think to the extent that it would keep maybe people from having to come here and ask for something,
right.
I think that it might be a pretty good idea.
And you're going to have something like that. Like, why do you really need to come here?
Agreed. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item I-5, and this was also discussed briefly at the last meeting. Councilman Teixeira requests consideration of the matter of the Charter Review Commission.
Actually, thank you, Town Clerk Cirillo, for pulling out the Charter Review portion from the charter, actually. And obviously, as it states here, every 10 years. So I'm no fault of anyone. We just get pretty busy. But here's the time. And I'm sure there may be some things that need to be addressed and from either our department heads or even from some of our counselors as to what we may need to tweak there. Although I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that whatever we do going forward, obviously we would have to either advertise or we could possibly do an appointment by counselors and the administrator. That may be an option, which is something up for the discussion. But we would need to frame this a bit because I served in the last one in 2010, and you need to have some direction. So we certainly would have to consider not just leave it up to a chairperson, but rather, how should I say, someone who can sort of guide the group and set the perimeters and the boundaries.
Were there some issues in the last one, too, like specific issues that the council wanted to see at least discussed? For example, the term mayor versus administrator as a simple one. The charter, I don't remember, I think the public voted it down. They may have agreed to put it on the ballot or, done some research on it. So, I mean, it could be stuff that comes from us as something to look at, as well as from the department heads and everyone else, and anything else in their own research that they might think about, and then it ultimately comes back to us before it goes on the ballot anyway.
So in discussing this and in preparing for it, I reached out to the clerk, and Lou was kind enough to do some research for us, and I asked for what other communities, so the frequency of the review, it seems to be anywhere from, and I'm looking at it in front of me, 5 to 10 years of when a town will review its charter. Just to remind everybody, the charter controls things like what's the term of the council, right? What's the term of the administrator? And that's just two pieces in a lot of things that are in the charter. So kind of the largest picture, the highest level, if you will. Charter review, and I commend you, Tony, for bringing this forward. In talking with the clerk, again, Lou had suggested that our most successful times had been with a facilitator, I can say that. So someone that come in that speaks this language and, for example, can say, and I'm going to use Lou's example on this, is that we may want to consider something and then find out that the state law already deals with it. So it's unnecessary to change the charter because state law actually takes care of it. So then the last thing that I would suggest, and Tony, I think you captured it well in regards to these control and focus needs to come from this council, and I think with a lot of input from the administrator and department heads. And what I mean by that is, again, talking with Lou, there's a couple of things that have been in our way of success that we could change. Here's an example. The Capital Projects Commission, again, I'm using Lou's example, in the charter, the most recent charter says it must meet twice a year. there's no need for them to meet twice a year unless there's something to meet on. And that's just a small example. This is a really important point, though, is that if there's nothing wrong, we don't have to change anything. So we don't need to find changes. If we look through it and say, this is fine, maybe there's a couple of things, but it's unnecessary to take it to that next step, it would be our next step as this council to refer it to the clerk to have him do some research on what is the drop dead date. When do we have to have this done? Because it would require this is a ballot question. So this would go to the people of Bristol, right? So we would need to know what our time frame is to make it to our next ballot in November. So again, I think you captured it perfectly. I think we need to make sure that we're focused on the right things. We don't need to pull the whole patient apart. We can, if there's an issue, let's handle it. If there isn't, let's not take it. But I would say the first step is let's get a guideline on when we have to have it done. And I'm absolutely open to whether it's each one of us is appointing somebody and then we interview, including the administrator appointing someone. I'm open to possibilities. So what's your thoughts?
I agree wholeheartedly that we need to work on the timeline. That's the most important piece. However, concurrently, we could work on the membership for the group so that we can get things moving, It's just what is the appetite of the council. I mean, we're looking at 9 members, so if we were to appoint a member each here, we would have 6, which means we would go out to the public for 3 others, an additional 3 other members.
Well,
I mean, just food for thought. The last time was strictly all public, yes.
Well, and to that earlier point is that having a consultant facilitate this would be I agree. I think that's a really, really important point. I have no idea what something like that costs, but I do believe that it would help us focus on the right things and not spin our wheels on the things we don't need to. So I think we should also explore that opportunity. So I think that I don't disagree with your idea, Tony. I think that seems appropriate to me. I definitely want to have the public, interested public, be able to have input on this. Ultimately, it is a council decision to put forth to the people, and then ultimately, it's up to the people of Bristol, right? But it's our job to make sure that we're putting questions. There was one that was done a few years ago in another community that had a lot of questions out there. At the same time, there was a lot of other things going on, and it was lost in it. And no fault, well, I'm not pointing the finger at the other community, but at the end of the day, if there's an issue with the charter that you want to fix, it gets lost in the other 1.5 million questions that are out there. We don't want that to happen, obviously. If there's nothing we need to change, fine. But if there is, let's make sure we can focus on it. So if you're comfortable referring it back to Lou so we can get a timeline on it, and maybe at our next meeting, I mean, are you proposing that we come with ideas or an appointment at what point?
Well, I'm not sure what the appetite is of the council. I mean, we can go 2 ways. One is advertise for all of the members. The other is, for us to each come up with appoint a member, then come up with 3 from the community at large. That's one. But I agree with you. We should refer this to Lou for the timetable that we need to work with.
Yeah, I mean, if there is interest in I think as Councilman Teixeira mentioned, to expedite the process, we could certainly advertise and not specify the number we're looking for. So if you're thinking about 6 appointed from the administrator and the council, with each person appointing 1 individual, the requirement is 9, so that would say 3. If you decide you don't want to appoint yourselves, then we can just accept more applications. So I think there wouldn't be any problem if you want to authorize advertising just without a specific number. That would probably be appropriate.
Great idea.
And I will, as I had mentioned to the chairman earlier, we don't have the election calendar yet, but pretty soon we will, and that will tell us what the date is that we have to submit our information for inclusion on the ballot. So perhaps we can work backwards from that date to determine what a timeline would look like.
But that is usually when, like around May or June, Lou? I mean, when is that? I mean, is there enough time to do this, or is it something that we should look at for 2022?
Well, I think that,
you can't. Like February, March, April, is that like enough
I think
time?
it would be a good idea to have something at the next meeting and then make a determination if you want to go forward with it. There is in the charter, there's a specific amount of time that's allowed this commission. It's not really allowed to go on and on forever. It has to conclude.
I believe it was a year that they have, but obviously that would go
Right,
past
that wouldn't work. But I mean,
Right.
if you look, for example, you wouldn't want to necessarily appoint them now for the 2022
Right, you would,
ballot.
right, that's what I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So I think it would be good to look at that, and then once you see that, then you can make a determination as to how you want to approach it.
I think that's our best next step at this point.
I do have a procedural question that would affect our timeline and everything, and I think the solicitor might have an answer for this. There has been talk about a consultant, and I know that there hasn't been anything that's been selected whether that consultant will be used or not. But I imagine that a consultant, if used for something like this, would be somebody who comes after the formation of the commission, because they would have to appoint the consultant, right? Or is that something that?
Well, I think the council would do that.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's been done in many different ways. In some towns, the council just gives direction, and then the solicitor's office reviews the proposals to see whether or not, as was suggested, state law already covers it or not. Or you can go the route of bringing in a consultant. So I think you should leave that open.
Yeah,
decide whether or not you want to go there or not.
I think it would depend on how many big burning issues there are. If
I
it's,
don't think there is.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I do believe that this is an appropriate exercise. Let's take a look at it. Let's go through the steps. If we may find that looking through it, that there is not enough there or anything there that we believe is appropriate enough to put on the ballot this time. So, and that's okay too.
Yes.
So, but we don't know until we take the next step. So can I take that as a motion?
Certainly.
Yes.
Is there a second?
It's a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is the correspondence from Chris Lawes and Kevin Jordan on behalf of the Bristol Statehouse Foundation concerning the town of Bristol and Bristol Statehouse Foundation lease.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Chris Lawes from 87 Highland Road in Bristol. I'm joined by Dr. Kevin Jordan, who lives in Bristol somewhere too, I think.
Hope Street, 221.
221 Hope Street.
Thank you for the clarity, I think.
So over the years, we've had a number of different leases that have come and gone. The current lease with the town expires in the spring. I think it's March 31st. And we wanted to discuss that lease, but we also wanted to look back over the last 20-plus years over the history between the Bristol Statehouse Foundation and the town of Bristol. Some of you may not know the history that well, so I've asked Kevin to summarize very quickly just a timeline of some of the key events over the last 20-plus years.
Hi, you tell me a professor who can quickly summarize something, and I'll tell you what. In any case, we're almost up to 25 years since the Bristol Statehouse Foundation started. Some of you know the courthouse was abandoned in the 1980s by the state, and they just kept the sheriff's office down in the south corner. And it was falling down. The town was the last one to lease the property. The town actually leased the property in the 90s from the state. And the only thing they used it for was a band. And then they allowed the lease to lapse. The town abandoned, took everything out. There was a big dumpster down there. They threw away the jurors' chairs and so on. We saved whatever we could. So at that point, Dr. Conley had used it for a bicentennial commission meeting. So he started a group, the Statehouse Foundation, to find a way to get a use for it. And this was in the mid-'90s. We took over ownership for $1. We bought it for $1 from the state because they wanted to get rid of it. And then we dealt with the town like, all right, now what do we do with it? We have now spent over $1.7 million in restoring it. And the agreement with the town was because the property is 200 by 200 feet. So it goes over to the Baptist Church, goes in the middle of the Little League field, and that's used by all kinds of people. Clearly, we could not afford to put insurance to have kids using it, so that's with the whole town. I think Joey was the town administrator at the town. we worked on a lease where the town would lease the property, take care of the outside, and they would pay all utilities for the building, and we would be responsible for raising the funds to restore it and maintain it. And as I said, we've done that pretty much with a lot of money. We just finished a $70,000 project up there. And that lease kind of continued with little change until the town wanted to use the 2 rooms exclusively on the south side for meetings. Those 2 rooms had been a school library for the children of Reynolds and Byfield School for 5 years. The Statehouse had never taken out a loan or any debt financing except to get the library in there for the children. So we did take out a loan for 5 years from the state. Then we made an agreement with the town that they would pay off the loan by having the free use of those 2 rooms exclusively for and that was part of one of our leases. But through all of this, both leasing the outside, the town had always paid utilities. Somewhere in the 2010 or so, the state, in its wisdom, discovered they were still paying the electric bill. I thought the town was paying it because that was part of utilities, but it turned out the state had never taken it off their rolls. So that electric was suddenly added to the bills. And, in fact, they came with us with a big bill. Too bad the state didn't continue in there.
Licensing. I thought you were coming with that. That's our Christmas present?
I don't know how they discovered it even and so on, but they did. So in any case, we've had a couple of different leases with the town. And about 4 or 5 years ago, the lease, instead of paying utilities, gave us a dollar amount of what the utilities were at that point in time. And unfortunately, time has changed. The utilities are higher. We opened the building for almost anybody in town, and I think Chris has a whole list of groups that have used the building for free. We try not to charge any nonprofits or anything like that. We have had town meetings, 4th of July meetings, League of Women Voters, all kinds of people use the building for free because that was our mission, to get the building being used. The town's responsibility was to kind of take care of utilities and maintain the outside. So what we need in a new lease is something that goes back to more accurately paying for the utilities so that we can try to continue our focus. We need to do another $40,000 or $50,000 worth of exterior restoration. A lot of the systems were put in there 25 years ago, so they're going to start running out. Air conditioning, heating, they only go for so long. So we're going to have capital improvements we're going to have to make. So part of what we're doing is in a new lease is trying, if we can kind of revive some of what the original commitment was. Because I think it's been a fairly good relationship through the years in terms of doing that. When we're doing the restoration, I'm looking at Miriam because I remember her father, who lived across the street, was one of my sidewalk superintendents to make sure we did the work correctly and so on. And Mr. Sweeney's father was on the board making sure we did things correctly, conservative financing. If I heard that phrase one more time, I'm not a conservative financer, he was. But it's been something that's been part of the town, has been used very extensively, and we want to continue doing that, but we need to get some of that onus off our back, which Chris will talk to. So that the lease is coming up in April, and we know it takes time to do anything. That's why we thought we'd do it now, so we could either start a committee or start thinking about it and put our hats on in terms of coming up with a lease that reflects where we're going to go in the future.
So typically, this would come to the council, I hate to say pre-negotiated, but negotiated prior to a conversation like this, and typically we would get to this point to say, okay, this is what's being proposed, this is kind of atypical to what's happened in the past. Can you talk to that? Why?
Well, I'm doing it because with any luck, and I think we got it today, my wife, she's had a lot of cancers. We're going to Puerto Rico, so I'm not going to be here for negotiations. I've been involved since the beginning, so Chris thought it'd be good if I could come and answer any questions ahead of time, give the background story of the whole thing, because I hope not to be here in April. So that's kind of why we put it on now in December. But negotiations obviously will take place during the time, but we thought it was important for the council because some of you weren't around that long, you're too young, and didn't know the whole story of that whole building. But it's been a major community effort for years, and we do, as I said, open it for all kinds of groups, arts groups, children's groups, you name it. The school used that library free for 5 years. We never charged a penny for using the school library, and that was exclusive use. So on. So I think that's why we pushed to do it now.
Okay.
And Chris might have more to say.
Well, I guess maybe this isn't the right time or place, but whatever you would suggest, we're willing to listen. We met with the town administrator, Kevin and I did, about a month or so ago. He suggested we come to you and say, look, we've got this beautiful building. It's not being used as much as it could be. Can we move the municipal court there? Can we open a welcome center? I mean, what other ideas does anyone else have?
Okay.
So we want
All
to put it out there that we've got this building that's not being used to its full capability. And in the current lease that's expiring, I consider it to be a below-market lease for the property that you have unfettered access to. And I've got a map that'll show you exactly what the property lines. Like he said, it goes past the second base on that Little League ballpark. Okay. So I mean, where or how should we negotiate? Should we negotiate with the town administrator? Should we meet with you all?
So I would say the next best step would definitely be to meet with the administrator to start the process. I don't think having you in front of us tonight was a bad thing. It's always good to hear the history of any of our buildings, particularly this one, having it to go into disrepair and then to look as it does today. So I think that's a positive. So I don't think this was a bad thing to happen tonight, but I would definitely say the next step would be to work with the administrator, and I'm happy to work on behalf of the council with the administrator to kind of get us going in a direction. We've always gotten to a positive end in the past. I say that tongue-in-cheek because that's what negotiation is about, right? You have a little bit of back and forth, but ultimately we get to a good place. I can't see why we wouldn't get there again this time. And we've always been reasonable with adjustments with market, and you'd mentioned utility bills. It's a great point. So we're certainly happy to work with you, but I would say the first step is with the administrator. Mr. Administrator, any disagreement on that?
No, I worked well with the foundation during the last lease, but they came and they just stated that they're, say it plainly, they're struggling paying their utilities there. And so the discussion after that was, well, if we're going to put more money into the lease, we have an interest in using the building
more than what we currently do.
We don't use the inside. The town doesn't use the inside. We pay, I think it's $5,000 a year. We maintain the landscaping and the snow removal. And again, we appreciate the use of the 200 by 200 feet of town common. It goes all the way out to second base. So I'm here to help. I think they know that. But I think the idea, we had some different ideas, perhaps actually making it our municipal court again, and that was one of the things that I was hoping you were going to hear tonight, just to start to get the word out. It was a courthouse. We're doing a security assessment on the courthouse that we use right now, which is actually our old town hall, the Burnside building. But we have some concerns about there could probably be some improvements. That was designed as a courthouse on High Street, so it was just a thought that I thought maybe would have been presented, and we should start thinking about it. But it is, the budget is lean, and I just to say, okay, we'll assume more utilities and so forth without further discussion and ideas. I'm not so sure if I was 100% in favor of that. If we use the property more for municipal purposes, I could understand more of a commitment. We have 3 buildings on the common that at times we struggle to find uses for. So
I'm happy. For myself, I'm absolutely happy to have the discussion. I do believe that this is a great time to do it, because if the lease is up in April, that gives us enough time. You're probably familiar with Parkinson's law, right? You get stuff done within the amount of time that you're given. So if we make sure that we keep this nice and tight, we'll get it done sooner than later. So
great. Thank you.
I like where the administrator is going. We're opening that building and exposing it, and I appreciate your proactiveness. So is it just the utilities that you're looking at? And then what sort of dollar figure? Do you know, or are you...
We've been averaging last 2 years $11,000 a year for gas and electric, and the agreement with the town is for $5,500 a year. We have reached out to National Grid, who put us in touch with Rise Engineering. Excellent. We're going to have an energy audit done in the very near future.
Good job.
We've only had to deal with utility bills for the last couple of years. That's sort of new for us. And we were kind of shocked to see what the expense was.
Of course, yeah. it's good that you're doing the energy audit because that will help. Hopefully we can pinpoint what needs to be replaced to make that place a little bit more efficient. But
Sure.
but I appreciate your proactiveness, and it's good to get this in front of us now, and that way we can work on a reasonable lease. So, do you need a motion to move the chairman and the town administrator to work with the Chris? Yeah.
Yes.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion, a second discussion?
Yes,
Great.
just very briefly, when you're talking about the electric, I remember what happened there when the bills were not paid and the electric was shut off, actually.
Yes.
Then I had to call National Grid to come and turn the electric on, and then we got on the ball after that because the state just took up on themselves not to pay. At one point in time, they just says, we're not paying any longer.
Someone
They
found they were
notified the
paying
town
for it
down. They did not notify anyone, actually, for that matter. I forget exactly. I think it was Diane at the time that was using partial the office there. Someone was. Yeah. And I got a call down here to say, hey, we don't have power here any longer. And then we were able to connect with the state to find out what had transpired. That's when they caught up that, they were paying the bill all along,
Yeah.
So.
I like the idea of, it was a courthouse. I like the idea of maybe looking into that. And I know I talked briefly to Chief Lynch. He remembers when he was on the Rhode Island Park Police used to have arraignments in there. So, I think, but it has to financially make sense.
Absolutely.
So, we've been, we've been doing an evaluation on our buildings. We're trying to consolidate. So we'll work with the foundation to hopefully find a sensible, efficient solution.
Any other discussion?
No, just hopefully that audit will help bring those bills in line a little bit better. So.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to refer to the administrator. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I-1, and this is the periodic report from Alan Klepper of the Bristol County Water Authority.
Motion to receive and file?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item AA11, withheld from the consent agenda at the request of Councilman Texera.
Councilman?
Mr. Chairman, this was basically just to make an observation. These are the minutes from the Harbor Commission dated December 2nd. In looking at the back, I just had the opportunity to be there for an event at the Maritime Center, and I couldn't resist but to see the improvement that was there with the heating system, the sound absorption. Go on, help me here.
Absorption.
Thank you.
Absorption.
Okay.
Absorption.
At the Maritime Center. So it was.
That's great. Yeah.
It was interesting to see, how it looked. There were quite a few comments made by many of the folks that were in attendance there, and it's nice to see that we've come a long way, and now it's becoming full use. As we heard tonight, there's another request to use it. It's nice to see. Initially there was some discussion that all the improvements were made, and what would happen to the place. Well, as we can see, it's being used not just for the folks using the boaters, but also, many organizations that look for that as an alternative.
For example, maybe a bingo might be coming up for East Bay Warriors, right? There it is.
Nothing else to do at the end of January that night?
That's
just go to
right.
bingo.
So I couldn't help as I was going through the minutes, to sort of highlight that,
Okay. Can I have a motion?
Just receive and file.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next, we have the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
With a continued effort to make this quick, a couple things. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We live in, all right, I'm going to say it, the most beautiful town. We're the most patriotic town, but my goodness, drive down. I don't know if anybody drove down in the snow. Everybody did. And with all the lights on, my goodness. And then with the lighting, with the trees, DPW does such a phenomenal job making the town look beautiful. It's really, we live in Norman Rockwellville. I really do believe we do. The other thing is KMS had a concert tonight, which my son played in. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade has their winter concert. couldn't be there because I'm here, because this is really important, but I just wanted to say congratulations to all of them. I'm sure they did a wonderful job, and I'll be watching the video when I get home. So, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Mr. Sweeney.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we're glad you're here, because I'm glad you're not at a concert. No, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. You know, the great time of the season is just to say thank you. And I want to first say thank you to all the department heads that are sitting here and that are not here, and the administrator. You guys do a great job. You really, and my colleagues, you guys are awesome to work with. So I just want to say thank you, because you make the job very enjoyable and rewarding. And to the residents out there, you know, it's a great town to live in. Thank you for everything that you do. Have a great New Year. I'm wishing you a prosperous 2020.
Mr. Texera.
Very brief as well. Councilman Sweeney, thank you for the thank yous. You know, okay.
Welcome.
Certainly,
could be in a circle on this one.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's interesting. I think you must have saw my notes, but that's okay. That's why I'm saying thank you for the no. That being said, Merry Christmas to all. Happy New Year, because obviously we're not going to see you before then. Wish you a very prosperous and healthy New Year to all. So, Feliz Natal, Feliz Ano Novo e Próspero Ano Novo. Muito obrigado. Thank you.
Excellent.
Ms. Perella.
Thank you. I too wanted to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a safe, happy, and healthy holiday season and New Year. And all of my colleagues, Tim, I don't know, maybe we were in traffic at the same time, but I was listening to the radio today. I was out and about doing a lot of things for work, and I was thinking about our council, and in lieu of some of the situation that seems to be going on in Warwick. And I don't know if anybody heard that, but you know, it's like a majority of the council members like put together another meeting, and
right.
You know, all that. And I thought, wow,
Commotion.
Thank goodness we have the people that we have and we work with, and you know, we try to we may not agree, but we all get along, and we all leave here as colleagues and friends, hopefully. And I mean, in my political life, that's how it's always been with whatever people I've worked with, and so we're very fortunate in doing that. So I'm glad you brought that up as well. It was on my mind today, and just a very Merry Christmas to everybody, to all of you here, to all of the staff at the and employees of the town of Bristol. I think, Kevin, you got an early start on like the snow stuff. I mean, fortunately, you haven't had to do too much plowing, but it was already like, what, 2 snow days or something for kids in school?
Yeah.
So just be safe out there. I think it might be miserable tonight, too. So Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy New Year.
Mr. Larry.
Excellent.
I also want to second everybody's comments on you know, wishing everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Certainly, I want to second their comments about the thanks that we should be giving all of our town employees, and that's the DPW workers that are putting up the lights. They're the ones that are putting up the trash, and just as evidence that we didn't coordinate all of our statements together before our meeting today, I actually took a look, and Christmas this year is on Wednesday, and so that on the 26th, you're going to have guys out there that are working. On the 24th and the 25th, the police department is going to have people out on patrol. The night before Thanksgiving, a night that everybody likes to go out and have a good time before Thanksgiving Day, those guys are all given cruiser rides to people that may have not been able to get back home safely. And so let's not forget that these holidays that we enjoy so much spending time with our family, this year they fall in the middle of the week. So our firefighters, our police, our first responders, our military, a lot of them are going to be going to work the next day after.
Town Administrator agenda items.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Bristol Christmas Committee, Festival Committee, for all of their volunteer work. They do a great job. Christmas Festival was remarkable again, and I'd like to thank the entire council, the department heads, our employees for their collaborative effort. I think Republican, Democrat, Independent, I think we all have the best interest of Bristol at heart, and the outcome is, I think, very good. And other than that, I'd just like to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and I wish everybody a healthy and happy New Year. That's all.
We're going to convene into executive session pursuant to 42465A5 relative to the acquisition of open space.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.